On average, you'll have to wait 31 days to see an OBGYN. And if you're dealing with an infection or outbreak, you know you need care fast. That's where WISP comes in. Connect with a U.S. licensed provider online and pick up safe, effective treatment at your local pharmacy that same day. Plus, get birth control and more delivered in all 50 states. Take control with comprehensive sexual and reproductive care, all from your phone. WISP. That's HelloWisp.com. The waiting room can wait.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with a Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Welcome back to another episode of Investies. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. This week on the podcast, we are going to talk about an exclusive portfolio that is reserved for the ultra wealthy. This isn't the type of portfolio we are familiar with. It is not a real estate portfolio. It is not a stock portfolio. We are going to be discussing a citizenship portfolio and how right now the ultra wealthy is currently focused on diversifying their citizenship portfolios. We are also going to discuss why we should be paying attention to this new emerging trend, as well as how we can potentially benefit from this type of thinking. Before we get into the details of citizenships held by the ultra-wealthy, I want to set us up with some proper context on what exactly is taking place in America and why the ultra-rich are focused on diversifying their citizenship. There's this well-respected investor by the name of Ray Dalio. If you are not familiar with Ray Dalio yet, I highly recommend that you go check out some of the videos that he's created over on YouTube or listen to some of the interviews he's been in. I first heard of Ray Dalio 2 years ago. He had created an animated film explaining his perspective on the rise and fall of America. And he was advertising this 45-minute animated film, and I would always hit the skip button. I was so annoyed by the advertisement of it all and also the doom and gloom feeling that I would get when I would start to see and hear the initial part of this animated video that he produced. And then just a few months later, we started to see inflation hit numbers like 9%, 8%. And I remembered that video that I would continuously skip, and I searched for it and I listened to him. I want to share that I do believe that at the core of Ray Dalio is an impeccable teacher. He sounds professor-like. You would never guess that he is actually the founder of the largest hedge fund in America. Raymond Thomas Dalio, of Italian descent, graduated from Harvard Business School, went on to work in Wall Street as a stock trader. He always references the moment when Richard Nixon removed the dollar from the gold standard, meaning the dollar was no longer backed by gold. He was so certain that when he returned to the office on Monday morning that the stock market was going to crash. It had to crash because it made sense. The dollar was no longer going to be backed by gold, and the Federal Reserve was now going to be able to print money. He was shocked when he saw that the stock market, instead of going down, was rallying. And not only was the stock market rallying, but other assets were also inflating. The experience had a profound impact on Ray Dalio. It led him to dive into historical periods when currency was no longer backed by tangible assets. The exploration revealed a recurring pattern. Once currency lost its backing, it triggered a phase of inflation, followed by the decline of the empire. The cycle of rise and fall repeated continuously throughout history. In 1975, Ray Dalio established a consulting firm by the name of Bridgewater. Within a short period of time, he took over large corporations as clients, including McDonald's, managing their funds and earning a reputation as a trusted investor sought out after his expertise. His popularity led him to create a subscription-based newsletter where he shared his daily insights on the stock market, economics, and his predictions for the future. During the early 1980s, at the peak of Ray Dalio's career, he made a really bold prediction that the United States would plunge into a severe recession. Ray Dalio went on to embark on a media tour. He warned the public about the impending downturn and took proactive measures to protect his corporate clients by pulling them out of the market. However, his prediction ultimately proved to be incorrect. And as a result, his clients missed out on profiting from one of the biggest bull runs in the stock market. Ray Dalio lost everything. However, not for long. He made a comeback by establishing Bridgewater Associates. In this new venture, he intentionally recruited individuals who would challenge his predictions and his decisions. He sought out individuals that were independent thinkers. His intention was to foster a culture of rigorous analysis, diverse perspectives within the company. This decision, including the decision to come back, led him to have one of the world's largest hedge funds today. 2 years ago, after watching that initial video from Ray Dalio, I did end up purchasing his book, Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order: Why Nations Succeed and Fail. I tucked the book away. I never looked at his work again until a few weeks ago. I came across an article stating a new trend that the ultra-wealthy are starting to diversify their citizenship portfolios. First of all, I didn't even know that having a citizenship portfolio was a thing. It immediately reminded me of Ray Dalio's work. In that 45-minute video that I watched of his, I did remember that he talked about how civil unrest was going to take place shortly after the period of inflation because there was going to be a greater wealth divide from the haves and the have-nots, and that eventually we were going to start to see the ultra-rich flee the country. All of this reminded me of the conversation you and I had here on Investies on Proud to Pay, where around 200 millionaires and billionaires were proposing to be taxed higher because they understood the consequences of the wealth divide and what that would ultimately mean for the wealth that they have generated. We'll link that episode in the show notes for you to reference if you haven't listened to that episode yet. It made me realize how much of what Ray Dalio is predicting is currently unfolding right before our eyes. All of this led me down the path in the last couple of weeks to finding out who is Ray Dalio. I have to admit that I was shocked to find out that he is not a professor, but I think that if you listen to his work or you have listened to his work, then we can both agree that he's definitely a teacher. I provided all of this context on his career and who he is because I do think it is really important for us as we take in information that we understand someone's journey and what they've learned along their journey if we're going to start to pay attention to the predictions that they are going to make. As his predictions are continuously unfolding, I wanted to make sure that I provided this resource some context on the resource in the event that you are interested. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we are going to get into the report on the diversification of citizenship for the ultra-wealthy, as well as some steps that some of us are able to take in order to mirror this action from the ultra-wealthy. Investies, every single week I head over to Apple Podcasts and I check to see if you have rated and reviewed the podcast. And some of you have. And I want to tell you all, thank you so much. I see you and I read you. Some of you haven't though, and I get it. We're super busy. You've got things to do. You're picking up the kids. You've got to go to work, all the things. I'm busy too. I just want to ask you to please, if you can take some time, head over to Apple Podcasts, rate and review us. This helps to push our content further into the algorithm so more folks can discover us. There are very limited voices that are speaking on finance in this way, like myself as a Latina, and I just want to let Apple Podcasts know that our voices matter. And a sure way to do that is by you heading over to the app, giving us a rating, and writing a review. Every single time you write a review, I jump up for joy. So, keep me jumping over here. And I understand you're busy. Just please take 5 minutes and do that for me, please. And thank you. And we're back. Not that long ago, just before and during the pandemic, we began to witness a new trend emerging where folks were leaving states like California and New York to move into states like Texas and Nevada, where they would be free of state taxes. As someone that has also moved out of California to Texas, I can share that the savings in state taxes is pretty significant, especially when you're taking into consideration a 2-income household. Taking that into consideration, it is easy to understand the desire from the ultra-wealthy to diversify their citizenship. There was a recent report released from Henley and Partners, which is a law firm that dedicates itself to helping the ultra-rich establish citizenship. This is from their website directly. Henry and Partners is a global leader in residence and citizenship by investment. Each year, hundreds of wealthy individuals and their advisors rely on our expertise and experience in this area. Our highly qualified professionals work together as one team in over 55 offices worldwide. The report states that wealthy U.S. families are increasingly applying for a second citizenship. And for the families that already have a second citizenship, they are moving towards collecting third and fourth citizenships. In a CNBC article recently published, it states that this trend is emerging in case they need to flee their home country. Dominic Volek, the head of private clients at Henley and Partners, says the U.S. is still a great country. It is still an amazing passport. But if I'm wealthy, I would like to hedge against levels of volatility and uncertainty. The idea of diversification is well understood by wealthy individuals around what they invest. It makes no sense to have one country of citizenship and residence when I have the ability to actually diversify that aspect of my life as well. Recent high-profile examples of citizenships include billionaire tech investor Peter Thiel, who added a citizenship in New Zealand, and former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, who also applied for citizenship in Cyprus. Volek goes on to list the top 3 reasons why Americans are so interested in citizenship diversification. The first one he states as just domicile diversification, just to have an alternate place to live that may be less friendly to U.S. Americans. Yikes. For American, British, and Israeli citizens suddenly unsure of their welcome abroad, supplementary passports provide vital flexibility. With rising global instability, holding citizenship in another country, particularly one that is considered more neutral or politically benign, now provides a valuable backup or alternative option. He goes on to list a third reason, which is business travel, where it is safer and less conspicuous as a non-U.S. passport in many countries. U.S. business leaders could be targets for resentment, hostage-taking, or random terrorism in the chaos of collapsed states or high-risk countries they need to travel to for business purposes. Global millionaire migration is expected to hit a new all-time high in 2024. It references wars, government crackdowns on wealth, and political uncertainty to be the catalyst to drive wealthy residents to other countries. An estimated 128,000 millionaires are forecasted to move to a new country this year. This number is up from 120,000 in 2023 and up from 51,000 in 2013. Obtaining citizenship in another country varies from country to country, but it is all the same in that you are required to make a dollar investment into the country, or in some cases, into a fund or a private equity. For the most part, obtaining citizenship in another country does require some sort of investment, whether you invest into real estate or into a fund or private equity. For the most part, obtaining citizenship in another country does require some sort of monetary investment, whether it is in real estate, in private equity, or into a fund. The monetary amount varies from country to country. While the majority of us may not have the access to these types of funds to even consider diversifying our citizenship, for some of us listening, we are children of immigrants. I would highly suggest that you explore the possibility of garnering dual citizenship from your parents' home country. Recently in the news, I have been seeing so much more talk specifically on the investment in Mexico and also in El Salvador, most recently as they have switched their monetary currency to Bitcoin. Typically, when reviewing the news, the narrative of what countries to invest in is always China at the top. In previous years, I've never heard about investments being made in Mexico or even the discussion surrounding El Salvador and their current currency. And so I do think that these are new emerging trends, and it is something that we should most definitely think about capitalizing on. I do highly recommend that you do the proper research on dual citizenship with your parents' native country. I'm not an expert in the space, but I want to offer it as strong consideration, given that the wealthy are already initiating a trend of this taking place. And it might be something that we should definitely use our resources for, and at the very least, pay attention to. You're listening to Investies, a Cosmic Standard and In Luz We Trust production. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. A special thank you to the team, Asia Simpson, Eliza Smith, and Jacob Winnick.
The search for truth never ends. Introducing June's Journey, a hidden object mobile game with a captivating story. Connect with friends, explore the roaring 20s, and enjoy thrilling activities and challenges while supporting environmental causes. After 7 years, the adventure continues with our immersive travels feature. Explore distant cultures and engage in exciting experiences. There's always something new to discover. Are you ready? Download June's Journey now on Android or iOS.